It came out today that literally Ohio law enforcement put Erin Brockovich on a terrorist list. This is not The Onion. I am not making it up. Did I send that to you, Colin? Hold on. Yeah, it's the Yahoo News story. So Erin Brockovich was put on a law enforcement, put her on a special interest terrorism threat for her activism in East Palestine. Ohio law enforcement issued a report late last month warning that events planned in East Palestine by the environmental activist Erin Brockovich could prompt a terrorist threat from violent extremists, according to an intelligence bulletin obtained by Yahoo News. Dated February 24th, so about a week or so ago, and distributed to law enforcement agencies by the Department of Homeland Security, the Ohio Statewide Terrorism Analysis and Crime Center, Terrorism Analysis, I can't even say that, it's so long, assesses that special interest extremist groups will continue to call for changes in governmental policy, which may lead to protests in around East Palestine and or at the State House in Columbus. Yeah, you know, that terrorist, Erin Brockovich, committing the terror of saying 2 + 2 = 4, water is wet, and this is a cover-up. Somebody like Erin Brockovich coming into town, it's such a threat because she's actually telling the truth, unlike the corporate media who have been regurgitating the bullshit coming from the EPA, who have been regurgitating the bullshit coming from the governor of Ohio. We'll play that video later. We put up a video yesterday showing the governor of Ohio's constant lying about the health symptoms. He's pretending, oh, I don't know anything about health symptoms of residents or rail workers. What kind of dystopian 1984 Orwellian nightmare are we living that Erin Brockovich is such a threat to the Department of Homeland Security? And I'm definitely going to try to interview her and get a response about this. That Erin Brockovich is deemed a violent terrorism threat, or that a push for changes in governmental policy might lead to terrorism. You know what's terrorism? When a corporation like Norfolk Southern spends millions of dollars to lobby our government, i.e. purchase our government, both the Democrats and Republicans. They cut corners. They don't do basic upkeep of their trains. And because they cut corners, because they cut staff by 30%, the entire railroad industry, because they don't upgrade their brake systems that are as old as Abraham Lincoln, I'm not making that up. Some of these brake systems are as old as the 19th century, that a fucking bomb goes off over East Palestine, Ohio, and the surrounding communities, and people, I'm sorry to say, are going to have cancer. And are going to die young. And kids are going to have their lives forever stained and permanently damaged. That's terrorism. Not Erin Brockovich, who's actually fucking telling the truth. Let's play some of what Erin Brockovich said yesterday, Colin.
I've spent all morning with some of the residents, and I'm very upset. Obviously, they're very upset. I just could not believe the amount of information coming in that they have, that they want to share, that it seems like nobody is listening to. They are so afraid. They get so many mixed messages. They're getting a total runaround. They want help. They make a phone call. It goes to Norfolk. Then it says call EPA. EPA says call Norfolk. They don't know where to go. They want to leave. They don't have the means to leave. People aren't coming back. Their animals are sick. Their animals are dying. I've just seen pictures of them who go to their own doctor with holes in their throat, or they're being diagnosed with chemical respiratory illness, or these rashes that obviously look painful. Listen, this has been going on for 3 weeks since the initial crash. I think we're pushing a month now, actually, March 3rd. And yet nothing has really been done that is really giving them any kind of help or answer. It's so frustrating. It's classic cover-up in an environmental disaster and running the people around in hopes that they don't figure it out or we all go away and nobody's none the wiser, when they are literally going to be the sitting ducks here. They will be the sitting ducks that don't know their future, that are terrified.
That's the terrorist, Erin Brockovich. Key phrases: classic cover-up. I mean, what would you call this? The EPA is suddenly now deciding to test for dioxins, which are some of the deadliest chemicals, the most carcinogenic chemicals in existence. They're suddenly testing for it 30 days later, but they're letting the train company test for it. You think the train company is going to be thoroughly testing, looking for as much of the toxin as they could find, or are they going to be looking to find as little as possible to limit legal liability? How much money did we send to Ukraine within the last hour, but we can't allot the proper amount of money for the EPA to do its own fucking testing? It's outrageous. It is a cover-up. And why don't we hear this on CNN? Why don't we hear this on MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post? Our democracy dies in the darkness. These people are going to die in the light. I'm sorry to say, these people are going to get sick. They are already sick. I've been speaking. It's honestly, it's not easy to even book interviews with residents because a lot of them don't feel well. Understandably, I have booked interviews with residents to come on live, and unfortunately, before they say, sorry, I'm not feeling well or my kid's sick. This is a humanitarian disaster. And frankly, at what point do you call it a war crime by the United States government? I don't give a shit if it's Norfolk Southern or the government. Norfolk Southern and the government, in my view, caused it, but it's the government's response that's leaving these people to fend for themselves. Erin Brockovich, classic cover-up. Chemical burns. That's what the rashes are. Holes in their throat. Talking about animals. Nothing has been really done. There was pictures and video earlier in the week. A reporter found 3 deer dead within like 100 yards of each other with no gunshots or anything. Oh, is my mom watching? Hello, Mama. With no gunshots in them. I don't know what the deer died of, but a resident said it's not very common for deer to show up all together dead by the creek. I think they drink water from the creek. That's not to mention all the fish that are dead. I think the Washington Post had a story that 43,000 animals have died. Originally, before we went there, I interviewed Taylor, who's a fox keeper. Both of his, actually maybe more than 2. I haven't spoken with him this week, but as of last week, 2 of his foxes have died. Many more were sick, and his coyotes are sick too. But cable news is literally airing the murder trial of someone I've never heard of, Alex Murdaugh. Literally, CNN the other night in primetime set up a mock jury box for their crime analysts to pontificate for an hour about Alex Murdaugh before he was convicted. Meanwhile, you got people in East Palestine, nausea, dizzy, vomiting, nosebleed, including children's, chemical burns. Their homes smell like gas stations. Can you imagine for a second if this happened in your community and you had nowhere else to go and the media came in and covered it for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then moved on to the next shiny toy? That's why we're covering it as much as we are. I mean, this is why I've covered Flint for 7 years. Because it's still a fucking crisis. Excuse my French, Mom. It's still a crisis. But we have a media in this country that helps the government, helps the corporations cover it up. Colin, let's play the second Erin Brockovich clip.
And the lack of mismanagement here is unbelievable. You have, everybody's seen the pictures. The pictures I was seeing up close, what was burning, the smells. It was very overwhelming to have such a close perspective today of what they went through. And I'm still absorbing, honestly, their fear and their turmoil. And I've been on a lot of environmental situations, and I've never seen anything in my life be so mismanaged, ever. You give an all clear, but yet you don't have any data, really, to prove that it is all clear. And then when the people come back and they tell you, I'm smelling stuff, we're sick, we're going to the emergency room, I can't breathe, they're just disregarded because everything is safe. It's obvious nothing is safe yet. And then when they come back, they're told, don't drink the water. But then that changed the next day. It's okay to drink the water. So it's safe, it's not. Drink the water, it's not. You're not really experiencing what you are, yet they're sick, yet they're going to the doctor. And every time they try to get answers to the EPA is deferring to Norfolk, the very fox that's in the hen house. So this is what upsets me. And it takes me all the way back to my days in Hinckley, California. We have another environmental disaster, another corporate cover-up. I'm sorry, something is not right here. Agency failures and a really great community of really great people that deserve answers, and not just leave them here sitting and guessing what their future will be. And getting this information takes time. You guys are around town, they're doing all this aeration that could be throwing chemicals into the air. You just had independent testing come out that shows it's in the air.
By the way, Erin Brockovich was about 45 minutes late to her own press conference because she was feeling symptoms from inhaling this shit. More than I've never seen anything in my life so mismanaged. And she has been to, this is not her first rodeo, and she's been to a lot of these sites. Never seen anything more mismanaged. You give an all clear, but you don't have any data really to prove that it is all clear. They literally brought these residents back after 48 hours. Why? So that the train company that caused the fucking bomb could continue moving. Because the train company by law cannot move through an evacuated city. Think of that. These people were traumatized. We spoke with one resident whose asthmatic son was projectile vomiting and violently shaking before the control release, just from the fire. And they brought these residents, they didn't evacuate the whole town. They brought them back just to let the train company continue moving, i.e., they don't want the train company to lose any more profit. What kind of sick country is that? I don't have the flag behind me for shits and giggles. We live in the United Corporations of America. Others have used it. They are using this as a sacrifice zone.